I don't think it's a hot take to say that Cartoon Network is not what it used to be, especially after the recent merger of Warner Bros. And Discovery, now helmed by everyone's favorite CEO, David Zaslav.
Eating my way through Faneuil Hall with friends.
I don't think I need to go over how this man single-handedly tanked the image of Warner Bros. Over the course of just a few days, or how he allegedly axed many of the original shows that were slated to appear on Cartoon Network later down the line. Again, allegedly. I could continue on with this, but you get my point. But during all this corporate upheaval, CN would finally release a new original series, a project that was decades in the making, created by the man who never misses, Genndy Tartokovsky. Okay, one of these is debatable. Unicorn Warriors Eternal focuses on the story of 3 heroes, who are tasked with fighting a great evil known as the Great Evil. Amazing name. But since this evil travels throughout time, the warriors have their souls placed inside a giant robot called Copernicus. When the time is right and the evil reawakens, the eternal souls of the warriors are released into the bodies of complete randos and they're just chosen to fight. Can I just say how absolutely messed up this is when you just think about it for a few seconds? Like, imagine you come outside your house to pick up your Amazon package, and all of a sudden Fat C-3PO here zaps you with the soul of Legolas, and then says you have to fight chaos across the street. Fast forward to 1890s London, where Big C, I'm gonna keep calling him that and you're gonna like it, is woken up prematurely, and proceeds to go into London and zap 3 of our main characters. But unlike the previous cycles, the warriors are mostly dysfunctional and aren't acting as intended, putting the future of the world at stake and being the main driving force for the story. Right off the bat, one of Unicorn's greatest strengths as a TV show is its main cast and its message about change. Take Emma and the soul possessing her, Melinda, for example. In the beginning of the series, Emma has it all: rich parents, a fiancé, and the promise of a very cushy life down the line. But when Big C comes to the altar and gives her the zap and then later on tells her what her purpose is, along with her almost killing her future husband with her powers, she refuses her new role as an eternal warrior, and tries so desperately to live the life she once had, which doesn't go well for her. She gets so frustrated with this new life that she goes into her conscience, gets right in front of Melinda's face, and says the equivalent of,
"Relinquish yourself to me."
Try me, bitch.
The two are clearly at odds with one another. But what I love about this arc is that later in episode 5, we get to see why Melinda is the way she is, and how she herself has some serious baggage. This leads to the dynamic of the relationship being flipped around, going from Melinda being large and in charge to Emma having slight superiority, trying to bring some sort of closure to Melinda's issues, and leads to them both understanding each other and finally working together as one. Kinda parallels Garnet in Steven Universe, and that if Ruby and Sapphire can't see eye to eye, then Garnet won't exist. And this all gets wrapped up in a neat little bow in the final episode, where due to spoilerific things happening, Emma ends up back in her old life, but refuses normality in order to help her friends.
They'll be coming for me, Father. They need me. I must help them. I don't need tea. I need to go back. Don't you understand? Everything is at risk.
Such a satisfying character arc. On the similar side of the spectrum is Edred. Out of the 3, Edred from the jump has most of his memories intact, making him the most normal of the group. But due to the other 2 having issues, he ends up being the metaphorical glue trying to hold all of them together. And just like Emma, he's trying to fight for a sense of normality he had in the past, by trying to reunite a romantic relationship he had with Melinda from previous incarnations, which ends up being problematic for 2 reasons. The first one being, Emma already has a fiancé named Winston, causing some predictable animosity between the 2. Heh, animosity. You haven't watched the show, you're not gonna get that. And the second being a fallout he had with his home kingdom back in the day, where, to put it shortly because I'm gonna explain it later in the video, he left his bride at the altar so he can continue his relationship with Melinda, which later led to a bunch of drama, and now in the present, due to certain circumstances, Edred is forced to deal with his past actions, mirroring Melinda and how he himself also has baggage. And you know, despite Edred finally coming to the realization by the end of the first season that he's been banished to the friend zone, he ends up being one of the funnier characters in the show, both in what he says and his visual language.
He is absolutely right.
Stop that. What are you doing? Why are you acting so weird?
And lastly, there's Alfie, an orphan living in an abandoned boarding school who gets zapped with the soul of the mystical monk Seng, who despite having cosmic powers, ends up being the least interesting member of the group for me personally. He is by no means a bad character. He does have his fair share of funny moments, and in episode 4, he does get an interesting character moment, where he sees himself as worthless without his powers, despite him not being able to handle his new abilities, and tries desperately throughout the episode to get back to his cosmic state, which is a stark contrast to Emma's plight, who wants to get rid of her powers entirely. But besides that one moment, I can't really think of anything else that majorly stood out to me, besides what he turns into the finale, which I won't go over because of spoilers. Also, there's Copernicus. He's a good boy. But I'd be remiss not to talk about this show's excellent art direction and animation, taking influence from cartoonists like Max Fleischer and the creator of Astro Boy Osamu Tezuka, along with other series like Spyro and Asterix and Obelix, to create a stylistic fusion that, to be honest, it took me a bit to get used to it, probably because I've grown accustomed to the way most modern cartoons look, at least on the Western Hemisphere. Heck, now that I think about it, the visual style is basically an evolution of Gendy's previous works, just with the new inspirations I mentioned before thrown on top of it. Speaking of Genndy, his style is very much present in this show. At the time I'm recording this, Oppenheimer just came out, and I've seen people say that film was a culmination of all of Christopher Nolan's other films. And I think that observation is very applicable here as well. The action is very much in line with shows like Samurai Jack and Primal, though less bloody and violent if we're talking about the latter. This was meant to be on Cartoon Network, remember? And just like Samurai Jack, it's not really a comedy, but it does have comedic moments that are executed in the same style. This also bleeds into the way the show is directed at many points. One of my favorite parts from the first 2 episodes are just the moments where there's no dialogue. Just the atmosphere, the sound design, and the animation telling the story. Those moments were just excellent, and I wish they happened more throughout the show, as the show overall is very dialogue heavy, more in line with Symbionic Titan than Samurai Jack or Primal, which is by no means a bad thing. It's just I wish the show had more soaking in the atmosphere type moments. Speaking of the dialogue, the voice acting overall is just fine, and that's all I really have to say on that front. It wasn't bad by any means, but nothing really stood out to me personally. Also, I don't know where to put this, but I like how Emma's little ploomf on her hair looks like a beret. Cause no, French. Just something I thought I'd mention. Also, between Emma and Assie from Samurai Jack Season 5, I think we can say Genndy has a thing for women in black skin suits.
It's more like, no, that's just my style. My guys wear black suits.
So I had a lot of positive things to say about this show. So are there really any major critiques I have? Well, there are a few. Nothing major, but this show, after all, isn't perfect. When it comes to most of the side characters, they didn't really leave much of an impression on me personally, because with the exception of Winston, I honestly forgot most of these characters even existed. This show is dead focused on the Eternal Warriors, which is what I expected, but that does come at the cost of forgetting that these side characters even exist. Like, do you remember the police captain's name, or that there even was a police captain? How about these characters are the exact descendants of Melinda and Sang? They appear once in episode 3 and then disappear into the season finale, where, to give them credit, they do have a decent role in helping Emma. But do you even remember they were around in the first place? Funny how most of the characters I brought up all first appeared in episode 3. Next complaint I have is the editing, and how I felt some scenes should have had another scene that preceded it. I can't really put it into words, so I'm just gonna have to show you what I mean.
Gotcha! There they are!
What? Copernicus!
No!
See what I mean? This happens a lot throughout the show, and for the most part, it wasn't entirely detrimental to my enjoyment. That is, until episode 7. I need to explain this in detail, so spoilers for episode 7 if you care. So the whole plot of this episode is that back in the past, Edred, who is the prince of the Orvan Elves, was supposed to marry a female from the neighboring Eastern Elf Kingdom. The reason being alliances and a bunch of other fantasy junk. But at the last moment, Edred calls off the wedding and announces that he loves another woman. And as I mentioned before earlier in the video, that other woman was Melinda. This causes a lot of conflict to break out between the two kingdoms that lasts for many years. So when Edred returns back home in the present, he has to come face to face with the consequences of his past actions. and must mend the unbroken line between the kingdoms and steal back the heart of the forest, which the Eastern Elves stole. A bunch of stuff happens, and when all is said and done, it's revealed to us that only when the evil is defeated that the souls are freed from their host. And since that hasn't happened yet, it's a sign that the evil is still out there. Which is a problem because Edred made a vow to stay behind when he restored the heart of the forest. And again, I can't really put into words, so I'm just gonna have to show it to you.
The evil, it is still out there. Precisely. No, not again, brother. No, I won't leave. I will not break my vow. Then we will face the evil without you. No, so you leave. No, so you're staying?
No!
Yeah, that was pretty awkward, right? But it's not over yet. Because of the vow, Edred is forced to return to his original body and stay behind in his kingdom. But here's the kicker. OG Edred is not actually Edred. That is Aelwulf, Edred's brother. This guy. The Edred we currently know was still in his possessed body and was just playing dead.
You can stop now.
It worked!
Will they ever know what happened?
Aelwulf will be a great king.
That was brilliant. Your brother is in your original body, and you're still you.
And my first reaction to all this information was, what? So, in this moment, we the audience find out that Copernicus can just not only take the warrior souls and place them in the other bodies, but he can also do the same for other people, like mere mortals. Am I the only one who finds the way this information is revealed to us to be just weird? Now, this knowledge of Copernicus's power does come back in the finale, so it's not just a one-off thing they do for this one episode. But man, does this whole setup for this twist just feel off to me. I implore you to watch the episode itself and tell me in the comments what you guys think. And my last real complaint against the show is technically two things, but bear with me. The pacing of the finale felt off to me. I don't want to get into spoilers, but let's just say the final two episodes throw a lot at you. And to me, it just felt like the stakes of the situation were all of a sudden ramped up from 100 to like 1,000. It just didn't really feel wholly natural to me. I just overall felt the finale needed just one more episode to pace things out better, but that's just my opinion. Now on to the second part of my last complaint, and it's more so on the way the show was marketed, so it's not really the show's fault or really even Gennedy's fault, which is that Cartoon Network and Warner Brothers marketed this as a miniseries, when in reality it really isn't. The season ends on a cliffhanger with certain questions still being left unanswered. Now, why is this a problem? Well, it's that calling it a miniseries basically changes people's expectations. When you think or hear of a miniseries, you probably picture in your mind a series that tells its entire story within a limited number of episodes. Keyword being, its entire story. Unicorn Warriors Eternal doesn't do that. And as I mentioned before, the show ends on a cliffhanger. So it probably led to some people being a lot more critical of the show in the end, thinking the show was going to tie up all its loose ends by the final episode. Now honestly, even if this was a series, I still think most of the complaints levied at the show would still be legitimate. But my point still stands. They should have just come right out the gate and said this was going to be a series with multiple seasons, instead of marketing this as a mini-series and setting up the wrong expectations. This wouldn't be the first time Cartoon Network did this. Remember Infinity Train? And how that was marketed as a limited series, but turned out it was going to have multiple different seasons? A grand total of 8 seasons, mind you, but it only got to 4 because Cartoon Network cancelled it. Because according to the creator, it didn't have a child entry point. I've only seen one season of Infinity Train, and I still feel bitter reading that. But anyway, to answer the question in the title of this video, yes, Unicorn Warriors Eternal is a very good show. And I think it has a lot of potential that can be expanded on in later seasons. Here's hoping we actually get a second season and that no behind the scenes BS happens. Cause remember, we're dealing with Warner Brothers Discovery here, and they would not hesitate to cancel something just because it's not bringing in the big bucks. Okay, so first off,
holy shit.
Who knew the internet wanted to hear some random guy talk about a mediocre kids film? But in all seriousness, I just want to say, thank you. Thank you so much. I thought that video at best was gonna get like 30k views. I did not expect my monotone ass voice to gain an audience this quickly. But with that success, it requires me to establish a few ground rules and also what my future plans are. Now to the first question, am I a reviewer? Well, not by trade. But joking aside, I don't really see myself doing consistent reviews from here on out. Mostly because, honestly, I don't really want to be a reviewer. I watch a ton of people who actually do reviews, but I just never thought it was really my thing. I was more into the edutainment style of videos. Stuff like Did You Know Gaming, Lost Media, Deep Dives, basically all that stuff. And I still want to continue to do those videos. I'm pretty sure my new audience has seen stuff like the Amphibia video, the Owl House video, and the Whom the Frog Bell Tolls video. And I still kind of want to primarily make that kind of content. But as I mentioned in my community post, I'm kind of in a bit of a bind with that. Because if I put out like one of those videos in that style, it probably won't do as well. Because I think most people here are here from my Ruby Gilman video and want to see my opinions on like other stuff. But again, I don't really see myself doing those consistently. I could be wrong, I could just start doing those videos and just forget about the other stuff, but I don't think I'm in that place yet. The only real current thing that's coming up I think I can review is like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie. That's mostly because I consider myself to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, and I think I have some interesting perspective on what I can say about that movie. But like after that, I don't even see myself really talking about other stuff. And by other stuff, I mean like current stuff, like currently on the market kind of thing. So don't expect seeing any Barbie or Oppenheimer reviews from me anytime soon, or at all. But to at least get some of you guys excited, if that's the right word, I do have some scripts in the works, like a lot of scripts. Some of them may become videos, some of them probably won't. But it's just to let you know that I am working on stuff, which is going to be pretty difficult. Because I have to currently balance that, I have to balance school, I have an IRL job, and I'm also trying to work towards an IRL career, so it's going to be difficult to find the time for that, while also having other things and even like leisurely activities like drawing or playing video games and stuff. I started this channel to upload stuff from like school projects, but you can't really find those videos anymore. But getting back on track, I started this channel as a hobby, and I still see it as a hobby, and I'm gonna continue to work on it as a hobby. So the wait times between uploads are gonna be very inconsistent, and I apologize for that. But in terms of what's on the docket, as I said, reviews are gonna be a bit of not a very common thing on the channel. They're gonna be like here and there, but I don't see myself continuing to do that consistently. But like more edutainment videos like the Owl House Amphibia video, I will probably continue to do those more consistently. But again, I don't know if that'll like tank the relevancy of my channel in the algorithm, so I'm taking a risk. It is definitely a risk, especially since I'm liking where my channel is going right now. And I think that's honestly all I have to say, so subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when new videos drop, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.